Centramatic, an American-made product for an American legend. Stick-on wheel weights and spoke weights on your custom wheels are now a thing of the past. This is old technology. As we see here, who wants to have any kind of a stick-on wheel weight on a beautiful custom wheel? With Centramatic, you're looking at a one-time balance with a beautiful 304 stainless steel polished balancer that you never have to even see right behind your rotor. Hi, I'm Jeff Gardiski with Centramatic and Centramatic Wheel Balancers. Today, we're here to show you how to put on the Centramatic Wheel Balancer product on Harley Davidson motorcycles.
Hey, Jeff from Centramatic. Welcome to Wildfire Harley Davidson.
Dan, I appreciate you guys hosting us here. So you've been doing this for a while, obviously, but
Yes, sir,
how long you been
20
turning
years.
wrenches? 20 years. And how many sets of balancers do you think you put on here at
About
Wildfire?
25 here.
Oh, so it's selling pretty good for you guys, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Customers are very happy.
We're going to shoot kind of a generic video here for you today. This is going to cover all aspects of the installation on a Harley Davidson motorcycle, to and including spoke wheels and mag wheels, but everything from 2000 forward this is going to cover. So let's get started, Dan.
We're here to help.
Dan, one of the problems we've had, whether we're putting Centramatic on or not, is in the installation of either new brake pads or custom rotors. On the older bikes without the Brimbos, like we have right here, this is one of our older bikes,
Right?
is brake drag.
Yes, sir.
Now, what's one of the ways to combat brake drag?
By cycling the calipers.
Okay, and by doing that, what are we doing?
We're pressing the pistons back into the caliper bore and then pumping them back out to lubricate the piston.
Now, I've always recommended, you've been doing this longer than I have on Harley,
Right.
but I've always recommended at least doing that possibly 2 or 3 times to be sure that they're
Absolutely.
really well lubricated.
Absolutely.
And now, once we've got those pads pushed out, on that last time we pushed them out, would you recommend putting them back on the rotor, bolting the calipers up, and then recentering the pads on the rotor itself?
Yes, so they fit as a team. Right.
Okay, that's great. And any other problems you've had with the product that way?
None whatsoever.
Okay. Now, Dan, one of the things that Harley recommends is to use brand new rotor bolts.
Always.
Now, for those of you who are going to use your existing rotor bolts, Dan and I both would recommend that you use a thread locker on those bolts. Now, Harley, right from the factory, are going to send these out with thread locker already attached. And I have to tell you, this is some tough stuff. I'd love to know what they're using.
Right.
But if you happen to use your existing rotor bolts, Harley recommends again that you use new ones. There are those of you out there that are going to use your old ones. Be sure and use some type of a quality blue thread locker. Loctite's what we would recommend. Now we need to remove the rotor bolts, so I'll let you go ahead and get started with that. So now that we've removed all the rotor bolts,
We're going to remove the rotor.
and of course the one thing we want to do here, let's go ahead and put a rag down over the wheel area here, is we want to clean the back surface of this rotor off. Get any grime off there that we can find. I mean, it doesn't have to be radical, does it, Dan?
No, sir.
And then we've already cleaned the hub. The hub's nice and clean. Anytime you have steel against aluminum, you're always going to have a corrosive issue, aren't you, Dan?
Right, right.
So we want to get that cleaned up. Now, Dan, as you've noticed, we went ahead and put the wheel up on a block so we can keep everything off the other rotor because we haven't removed it. It's always good to remove them one at a time, otherwise we could get confused and put them on the wrong side.
There
right?
is a right and a left.
And the last thing we want to do is put this on backwards in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start snugging these rotor bolts up. Now, once you've got them all snug, we want to switch over to a torque wrench. And in this case, the 08 Ultra front wheel is required to have 24 foot-pounds of torque per rotor bolt, correct?
Yes, and a star pattern.
And a star pattern. So we don't want to over or under torque anything, but definitely check the torque specs for the particular model Harley Davidson you have when applying these, so that you don't over torque or under torque those particular rotor bolts. Okay, we've got one side done. Dan, let's go ahead and flip it over and do the other side. Well, Dan, as you can see here where my finger's at, we still have some old technology on there. So let's go ahead and remove those wheel weights. Of course, use some kind of light solvent to remove any foam or any adhesive you have left. We'll do that after we get the wheel back up and on the bike. You want to be sure and remove those wheel weights because the reason you put Centramatic on to begin with, you don't need that old technology. Now that we have the wheel reinstalled, we're going to pick up the caliper using a reverse spanning tool or anything smooth that won't damage the pads. Press your pads to their outmost position. Now that you push your pistons out, let's go ahead and put the caliper back onto the rotor. Once you have that in place, just rest 2 bolts in there a few threads deep. This will hold your caliper in place while you pump it up. Now that we've got both calipers loosely reinstalled, we're going to go ahead and reach in and pump up these brakes. Now that we've got the calipers pumped up and cycled, let's go ahead and spin the front wheel, making sure that it spins freely. Remember, all Harleys have a little bit of brake drag, but this is a free spinning wheel. Refer to your shop manual for wheel removal instructions and all torque specs. The balancer can be mounted on pulley or rotor sides depending on your application. If you are reusing your rotor bolts, be sure and use a medium strength thread locker. Okay, now we'll go ahead and remove the rotor here using your impact wrench. Of course, the very first thing we're going to do is go ahead and surface off this hub and make sure we get all the dirt off here. On this one's actually pretty clean. And we'll get our rotor up here. As we said before, and you can see it right here, anytime you have steel up against aluminum, you're going to get a little bit of corrosion. So just take a Scotch-Brite or anything like steel wool, try not to use sandpaper, but just lightly scuff that off, make sure you got everything off there. And the next thing we'll do is put our balancer onto the wheel. Got our bolt holes lined up.
New rotor bolts.
Brand new rotor bolts. And again, I want to stress, if you're using the old rotor bolts for any reason at all, be sure and use a proper blue or medium strength thread locker on those bolts before reapplying them. Now that we've got our rotor bolts installed, we'll go ahead and torque these to 36 foot-pounds. Book calls for 30 to 45, so we'll split the difference. Make sure you go in a star pattern around here because you want to make sure that we're, again, torquing the bolts down so the rotor is sitting centered on the hub. Now that we've done that, all we need to do is go ahead and reinstall the wheel. Now that we've got the rear wheel reinstalled, we're going to do the same thing we did up front by spreading the pads on the caliper. This will push the pistons back out, allowing them to, one, be lubricated, and two, be in a position where they can recenter on the rotor now that we've moved that rotor out 30 thousandths with the balancer. As you can see, the pads are well spread, pushing the pistons back into the caliper. Now we'll reattach the caliper. Now that you've reinstalled your caliper for the last time, pump up your rear brake as you did before until the pedal becomes firm. Now at the back wheel, we'll spin the wheel to be sure it spins freely and there's no brake drag. If you do experience brake drag, be sure and cycle the calipers as we did previously to eliminate any non-lubrication on the pistons of that caliper. Well, here we are, Dan, at the end of this installation. I mean, not that hard, would you say?
Not at all, Jeff.
I mean, what are some of the things that you saw that we need to be concentrating on?
You need to concentrate on make sure that you're following your service manual to do the proper torque specs, proper installation of all the other parts, Make sure everything goes smooth and it's good and safe.
Through that installation, you've seen some of the older bikes. You said you've done about 20 of these now,
right?
Probably plus.
Right.
And what's the biggest things you run into?
Proper caliper alignment. Making sure that after you install the Centramatics, that the calipers are mating to the rotors properly.
So they're centering again, and we want to make sure those pistons and those calipers are nice and lubricated.
Absolutely.
I know that one of the mistakes I've always seen, and you have too, a guy goes to put his calipers back on, even on a tire change.
Right.
And he doesn't cycle those calipers out far enough and get them lubricated.
It's a must.
And the pistons start sticking,
Right.
So that's definitely one of the things we need to be looking for. And then, of course, brake drag and free play, we want to make sure that those wheels are moving properly.
For sure, spin your wheels afterwards. Make sure there's not too much drag on them.
Now, on the rear calipers on some of the Dynas and Softails, we have an issue there where we can't just remove the caliper like we did on this Ultra Classic.
It's a fixed caliper,
It's
right?
a fixed caliper. So we still want to cycle those calipers as well, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Even if you have to use something to put in between there to pump it back up and make sure that they seat right.
Can't ask for any better than this. Centramatic and Harley Davidson. Special thanks to our guest technician Dan from Wildfire Harley Davidson, part of the Windy City Harley Group, 120 West North Avenue, Villa Park, Illinois. Remember, if you're riding down the road on your Harley Davidson and you're using Centramatic, the open road never felt so good.